Hiya pals, Siskateers here. I'm Mary.
I'm Tony.
And welcome to the channel. So today we have a conversational video for you.
Yay!
It's a pros and cons.
Pros and cons.
Comparison type thing.
Comparison type situation, which if you read the title of the video, you already know what it is.
We are comparing staying on property at Walt Disney World
versus staying off property at Walt Disney World.
the pros
And the cons.
of each.
Yay!
Yeah. So, the more we've talked about this already a little bit,
Yeah.
kind of, and the more we talk about it, the more I really don't know what's better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough.
I've got opinions and thoughts about it all.
Yeah, it's tough. So,
Yeah.
where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with staying on property and let's talk about some pros for staying on property.
Sounds good. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
For me, I think the biggest pro of staying on property is you get to make your dining reservation 60 days in advance.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing
good.
for me.
Yeah, it is.
They're hard to get. So
Right.
having that extra 30 days versus being off property makes a difference.
It does. Yep. I mean, that is a good pro.
I think that's my biggest
Yeah.
one, like right now.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
So for me, staying on property, I think it's just that Disney like feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is.
Like you don't get that really when you stay off property.
No.
You know, I mean, obviously you still feel like you're at Disney, but there's just something about staying on property.
Yep.
You know,
Themed
just
rooms.
the themed rooms and just the whole like being in that Disney bubble, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
That still is appealing, and that still is something that you can't get anywhere else.
That's true.
You know?
I agree with that. Like you said, it's a whole feeling
Yeah.
that you don't get at a different resort.
Right.
I mean, even if the resort is super close.
Like even if it's in one of those like, you know, near downtown, Disney Springs.
Right.
It's still not in Disney bubble.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I think another pro to on property is you get an extra 30 minutes in the parks.
Extra time.
You get the
Yeah.
extra time.
Mm-hmm.
Every resort gets early park entry. Deluxe resorts sometimes get late
night,
hours.
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's a definite plus for me because
Yeah.
the tickets are the same price
Mm-hmm.
whether you stay on or off.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that little bit of extra time sometimes helps.
I think so too. I think that's definitely, I mean, obviously it's not what it was,
No.
what it used
but-
to be, but it's something.
Yeah.
You know. So I think the other thing, another pro about staying on property is you get the benefit of Disney itself. So what I mean by that is like typically, and in my experience is like if something were to happen or go wrong or you lose something or you misplace, you know, luggage, like what I've noticed and seen in the past is Disney is typically very helpful and generous
They are.
to like either help you like replace items or you know what I mean,
Yes.
like
Very much.
and so I don't know that you wouldn't really get that at an off-property resort.
Yeah, Hilton
You
down the
know,
street.
if you're just staying at like a Hilton or you know whatever down the street.
Yeah.
So I think having that like Disney customer service type, I guess that's what I'm.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah, I get it.
I think that's definitely a pro.
I also think another pro is, and this is specific to certain resorts because not every resort has the great Disney transportation.
Right.
I'm going to say the buses are not even in the realm of good transportation right now.
They've got a lot of issues.
But if you're staying at a Skyliner or a monorail or
Yeah.
even like an Epcot walkable
Yeah.
property,
Mhm.
that's a huge pro here.
But I mean, even the buses, even though the system may be slow or whatever, that's still transportation to the parks.
It is still transportation
You
to the
know?
park. So if you stay off property, yeah, they have trams or trolleys that'll take
Yeah.
you, but they don't go rope drop most of the time.
Right.
They don't stay till closing most of the time.
Yeah.
So it is always a pro to be able to take advantage of Disney transportation.
Transportation, yep.
Certain resorts more so than others.
Right. Yep. Yep.
So,
Is
there another
Wait,
one?
I had another pro in my head and I lost it. Oh, so this is for like if you're in the parks and you've done some shopping
Oh, this is
You
this
know?
is big.
You can have your items that you buy sent back to your room, and you don't have to lug them around. Where you can't do that at an off-property resort.
No, you can't.
You know, so I mean, if you're in the park and you see something you want, and you're like, oh my god, I gotta get it like right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it's just something you don't want to lug around. Well, send it to my room at whatever resort I'm staying at, and they will.
Yeah, that's a good one. I never even thought about that.
Yeah,
That's
I actually have never used that service. Have you?
Nope. Because typically the things we buy are small and I don't mind carrying it.
Yeah.
Or I'm waiting till the last day.
Right.
Or I'm getting my stuff at Disney Springs when I'm already headed out. That kind of thing.
It could be, maybe it happens more often with people with little children, maybe like big toy items or something that they find at the Magic Kingdom. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
I mean, it could be even too, like if you're down there for like merch launches and you want to buy it right then so it doesn't sell out by the end of the day and you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to carry it. That's actually a really good pro. I like that a lot. I never even thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, do we have any more or do we want to go to pros of off property?
Let's go to pros of off property. I'm sure there are some more pros.
I'm sure there are. Guys, tell us what yours are.
Those are like the big ones that we could think of right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about pros for off property.
The biggest pro for off property is the price.
Correct.
It's always going to be cheaper than even the cheapest Disney resort.
And that's what I've experienced because, every time that we go, it seems like we're always pricing it out because, finances is something you have to hugely, it's a huge,
it's the whole
thing.
Like,
you have to be able to afford it.
Right.
So, and the hotel is something that can be very expensive. And, if you're not spending a whole lot of time in the hotel, it may be beneficial to stay off property and save that extra money. Or just even if you are spending some time at the hotel, you still stay off property and save the money if that's what you want to do. Money.
I feel like, and this is just from us me going with my family, I'm sure you going with your family, the last time we stayed off property was at our sister trip last year.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a video. I'm going to link it up here. You go check that.
We went down for my birthday.
Go check that hotel out because that hotel was amazing.
And it was right there in the Disney Springs area.
And it was $61 a night.
And it was perfect for what we needed.
$61 a night was what it was when we got it in September of 2021.
Nights. We stayed 2 nights? Yeah.
Did we stay 2 or 3? 2. Yeah.
We only stayed 2 nights.
Only stayed 2 nights.
So something like that for sure is perfect.
Well, both nights were cheaper than one night at the All-Star would have been.
Correct.
So,
and we were in the park from morning to night. Like
one whole day. We didn't even leave.
We were in the Magic Kingdom the entire day.
Yeah.
So there's no need for anything at the hotel to be other than somewhere to sleep and take a shower.
Correct.
So it was absolutely perfect.
It was perfect. Again, I'm linking that up here because it was a great room and we did a good little run through of that whole hotel actually. Mm-hmm. What was it called?
No idea.
Lake Buena Vista something. Yeah, you'll see it up here.
Yeah.
What's another pro of staying off property?
So I think, I don't know. The price obviously is the main thing.
You know what I think is a pro? And like we say staying in the Disney bubble and being in the Disney bubble, but I think it's a pro to sometimes remove yourself from that Disney bubble.
Yeah.
And maybe experience something else or even just take a break from it.
Yeah.
And if you're off property, you get that break. Not because it's bad or not, but sometimes it's just a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's a pro in my opinion. Just
and
to kind of
like you're kind of saying, you take yourself out. So you could, if you're on your way home from the park or something, you can go by a fast food restaurant if you just want to grab something inexpensive and quick.
Again, it's back to the money.
It's back to the money, and take it back to your hotel and just eat it. That. Not saying you can't go to a fast food restaurant when you're staying on property, but what's the likelihood? I've never done that.
The only reason why I've ever done it is because I was down there in 2020 and a lot of the places to eat weren't open.
Yeah.
And the parks were closing at 6 p.m. and so it was what are we going to do?
Yeah.
That's the only reason I've ever done it. But
different,
other than that, no.
Yeah,
we don't do that.
You just eat at your food court, or you eat in the park, or whatever, you know.
So that's a pro, and again, that's kind of about the money.
Yeah.
I think another one is you control your transportation.
Yeah.
Even though Disney transportation is great and that's a pro for them, sometimes having your own vehicle and controlling your own transportation is also a pro.
Right.
Because you don't have to wait for a bus that could potentially take an hour and a half.
Yeah, you can just go get in your car and go back to the hotel.
Yeah. So I think that's a pro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to think. So something that we did. So when we went in October of 2020, we stayed off property.
We did.
And one thing that I did is I needed to go to Target to get something, and had I been on property, I don't know that I would have necessarily left and gone to Target.
I wouldn't have.
I went because it was on my way. Mm-hmm. It was by the hotel we were staying at. And I was like, oh, I can just go to Target. Not saying you can't do that if you stay on property, but the likelihood of you doing it's kind of like the food thing. Once you're on property, it's you don't really want to leave, you know?
Right, and that's what you're saying, the Disney bubble, or being able to remove yourself.
Yes.
And go and do other things, or get something from Target.
Yeah. It just, for me personally, if I'm staying on property, I'm I'm here. I'm on property. I don't really want to leave. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to be on property. That's one reason why I stay on property, so I don't have to, so I can just be here.
Yep.
But it does help to be able to disengage.
Sometimes I can think, I can only think of two instances that we've stayed on property and left being on property. So the first one was 2013 when y'all went to SeaWorld and we went to Universal.
Yeah.
We were staying on Disney property.
Yep.
And the second one was our first sister trip when we Ubered to the Character Warehouse. But that was still Disney.
Right.
It's still Disney stuff.
We were going to do Disney things.
But
we did.
Typically when we're on property, we're on. So staying off gives you that little bit of freedom to say, hey, I'm gonna pull back a minute.
But I think, that's the main thing of staying off property is the money. It's just more affordable.
When we stay off property, we hardly ever eat inside Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, even restaurants, we will choose a restaurant outside.
Yeah. And that's a good tip for how to cut cost when going to Disney, you know? I mean, if you're staying off property, you can eat outside the park more often and, save some money.
All right, so that actually kind of will lead us into the cons of off property, I think.
Sure.
Because I think the biggest con here is paying for parking.
Yeah.
Because if you're off property,
to go to the park,
you have to pay for parking every day. Every day, and it's $25 to park in their parking lots.
Yeah, and that's expensive.
So if you're there for 8 days,
and you go to the park, say you go to the park 7 days out of the 8 days.
Yeah. I mean, you've almost spent $200 on parking.
On parking.
So weighing that, your off-property hotel and your parking versus your on-property hotel, now where's the cost? That's how I always have to look at it.
So, I mean, does that extra $200 for parking, could that be the extra $200 you're going to pay to stay on property? I don't know if it's that, if it's that price difference, I don't know.
I don't either. I haven't priced it out.
It may be. I mean, I don't know.
I think that's a huge downfall to staying off property.
You have to pay to park. And with that, you have to drive on property. And
yes.
If you've never driven on Disney property,
it is confusing.
It's confusing. I'm sorry, but it is confusing. I have gotten lost so many, I've literally gotten lost
and
so many
it's
times.
so crazy as many times as we've driven down there, and I'm very good with directions. I think you're pretty good with directions.
But
I get lost on property every time.
I do too. One time we ended up somewhere. We were behind the scenes, and we were not supposed to be there.
I mean,
we're in the cast
what
parking lot or something.
Yeah, I've had that.
That can be stressful, and if you're staying on property, You don't have to worry about that.
You don't have to do it.
You just get on Disney transportation and they take you everywhere you gotta go.
Yeah, and they know where they're going.
And they know where they're going.
Yeah.
They may go really fast and scary sometimes.
They probably will if you're on a bus.
Yeah, but so that's definitely a con, having to drive on property and navigate it.
Yeah. Also, a con is you only get 30 days to book your dining. So whereas if you're staying on property, you get 60 days out. Mm-hmm. If you're off, you only get 30. So. And dining reservations are competitive.
Yeah.
So 30 days sometimes it's not going to work. You're just not going to get them.
You're not
going to get them most of the time. I mean, even at 60 days, it's really competitive. Yeah. So I think that's a big con, especially since food is such a big part of our vacations now. I mean,
we love going to restaurants.
I mean, I know when you and I go, we're like planned out.
Oh yeah,
like all our little food places. We have planned our quick services.
Yeah, Tim and I always plan my food. One of our things is like every time we go to Disney, like we want to eat at a different restaurant.
Same.
You know, we want to try. I mean, a lot of times we will eat some of our favorites too. But we at least want to throw in one or two new restaurants because there's just so many, you know?
Yeah, we do that too. We like to, I mean, eventually I'd like to have eaten at all of them.
Well, yeah.
But, I mean, that's going to take a while because there are some that are favorited into every trip.
Yeah.
Like
That's like, well, we have to go eat it, you know, whatever.
Yeah. For me, it's like Tusker House. And now that Tusker House is back open, I'm like, I want to eat at the Tusker House.
Yeah.
So, so I think the reservation thing is just like it's a no-go for me because a lot of times we plan our vacations around our food. Mm-hmm. Like when we're going to eat, where we're going to eat. I mean, especially when it's just us going.
Yeah.
And I know when you and I went on our first sister trip, it literally was planned around the food.
Yes.
I mean, like everything was planned around where we were eating.
That's just how we do it.
And what snacks we're like, we're going to stand in this line for this snack.
Right.
That's a whole nother thing.
Well, and I think too, like, cons of staying off property are tie into the pros of staying on property. You know what I mean?
Well,
the food thing and the Disney service and you know the services that Disney offers that you're not going to get staying off property. You know, so
I
you want to move into cons of staying on property?
Cons of staying on property. This is where So we decided to do this video, and then Michael and I talked about it before Tony came over, and it got like kind of heated. So, because I'm going to tell you, because there shouldn't be this many cons to staying on Disney property.
Unfortunately, they keep adding up.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and say,
one.
What is your biggest one?
The transportation from the airport.
Yes, there is no more transportation, like Disney transportation from the airport. Sure, you can get a shuttle, you can get an Uber, you can rent a car, whatever.
But Magical Express
is gone.
And that changes people's trips completely.
It changes me not even wanting to fly there anymore. Right. I just want to drive
because then it's like we gotta either like get a rental car or we have to pay for an Uber and how much is a rental car, and then when we get there, like, do we need the rental car the whole time? Or we're going to keep it the whole time, but then we're going to need it again to go back to the hotel. So do we just keep it the whole time, or do we turn it in? Do we get it back? Do we rent an Uber?
It's such a thing. But to that point, there is a car rental return. Yes. Tony has a video. I'm going to link it up here.
Because we did actually do that. So we, but Magical Express was still in service when we did this.
It was.
But it's because there was a weird thing, and we actually stayed off property our first night. So
because you booked an extra night.
Because we booked an extra night that we didn't put into our package, and it was there anyway. So we had to rent a car, or we didn't have to. We could have taken an Uber, but we chose to rent a car when we landed there in Orlando. We rented a car just to get us from the airport to our off-property hotel, and then the next day we were checking into our Disney resort. But there is a rental car place on property. It's right there, right there by the Magic Kingdom. You go in like you're going to the parking of Magic Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And you can return a rental car on Disney property. And then they have a bus that will take you, or a shuttle, it's not a bus. They'll take you to your Disney resort. Yeah. So if that's something that you need to do, and you need to rent a car to get from the airport to your resort, you can rent a car and then turn it in and not have to keep it the whole duration, and then rent it again if you want to get back to
get
the,
back.
you know.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that is an option.
but it's not the same as the Magical Express.
It's
still a
chaos.
con. It's still a con.
You have to take the time to do all that, though. You have to
Yeah.
take the time to return it. You have to, you know, like it took us half a day.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
To do all of that.
Okay, so
you
we're just gonna jump right from that to that because that's a great segue. Disney transportation takes how long? I mean, it took
100 years.
you how long to return, how long to wait for your shuttle to get to your place. So, I mean, buses especially.
Yeah, buses are
and right now, I've got so many friends go into the parks, and they're just constantly saying, we had to wait an hour and a half for a bus.
To have to wait an hour and a half for a bus just seems ridiculous.
It's insane. And then somebody's saying, okay, so the next bus return time says it's this, but there's 75 people waiting for it. So I just decided to get in my car and drive on over.
Yeah. I mean, so it's just like, it's that is frustrating.
And that is where I said in the pros, if you're on a Skyliner or a monorail resort, that's a bigger pro than being at an All-Star or somewhere that only has bus service.
Or being at one that you can at least walk to Epcot or,
Well, yeah, because then if you're staying at a resort where you can walk to Epcot, this is not actually a con,
Skyliner.
but you can get on the Skyliner Studios, you can get on the monorail to Magic, so those are things that you can do. Mm-hmm. But the con is the bus system is not working right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's like a lack of employees or cast members or bus people.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
When we were down there in November, what we experienced with the buses was, say we were going to Animal Kingdom. There would not be an Animal Kingdom bus for 20 minutes. And they're supposed to come every so often.
Yeah.
But there would be 3 for Magic Kingdom and nobody in line for Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, see, something...
And because of their routes, they can't just switch over and be like, okay, sure, we'll take you to Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, that's what we were told.
Well, that's what we're told. They run specific routes.
Because I remember asking at one point, I was like, why in the world can't you, Magic Kingdom third bus, with nobody going to Magic Kingdom, and there's 75 people wanting to go to Animal Kingdom?
Can't you just take us
to the Animal Kingdom?
Yeah.
And they said that, they have a specific
routes.
route and all this and that and the other.
Which, I mean, that's fine. It makes sense. Everybody has their own
but
thing.
There should be a, hey, we need to call an audible. You and you need to go take these people. I don't know. It just didn't seem like the communication was very good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm very, very, now that the Skyliner is there, I'm very picky about, I just want to stay at Pop Century.
Yeah.
Because it's a value that gets me on the Skyliner. I get 2 parks from that Skyliner. Yeah. And then
then you could take the monorail.
Well, you still have to go through the park.
But
if you don't have a reservation, the reservation system is a little bit different. Yes. Another con of staying on property is you have to pay for your parking at your hotel.
Yes.
Which you didn't always have to do.
You didn't know that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago they started doing that. And that just when that happened, my whole thing was, why don't you just raise the price of the room? $15 or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Because
what is it, $18 a day?
I don't know.
Because
when you say, you got to pay to park at a Disney resort, that just makes people angry.
That gets people. It gets all over people.
If you needed that extra $15, $20 a day, make the room $15 or $20 more a night.
I agree.
And nobody would even be the wiser.
They're going to notice the increase in the room, but they're going to be more likely to be accepting of it.
Because they can park there for free.
Because they can park there.
It's just a thing. It's a mind thing.
Now, what goes with that, a pro, is that you can drive your car to the parks. And you've already paid for your parking, so you get that parking, which actually it's a little bit cheaper because I do think it's $18 a day, and not $25.
And not $25.
It's still only $7.
But still, I think having to pay to park at a Disney resort is ridiculous.
I agree. I think that's crazy.
I think it's silly.
We don't have to pay to park at the off properties.
No. So that's a con.
There's that. Sure. That's a con. What's another? Do we have another con?
Staying on property. I think the main thing for that is just the Magical Express, not having that. And then if you are, say you do take an Uber from the airport, you're on property, you have to pay an Uber to leave property if you want to leave.
If you want to go do anything else,
like,
yeah.
because you're not there with your vehicle, which I guess that could be off property too. You know, you may not have your car there. Ooh. Well, they may fly.
This is how I do it. If we're on, we fly. If we're off, we drive. And that's just how we do it. Yeah. Now, we may be driving from now on just because there's no Magical Express.
No benefit of flying.
And there's
other than the time.
No. Yeah, I mean, the time that it takes. But we don't ever go in a park on our first date anyway, so we could use that day to drive down.
Yeah. Which
is actually what we're doing on our next trip.
And it's not a bad drive for us. It's an 8-hour drive.
Yeah, it's not bad. So. But anyway, those are our pros and cons.
Yeah, I mean, there's more probably on both sides, but those are just the ones that we could think of. Mm-hmm. We could probably sit here for hours and talk about it, and we're not going to do that.
No. Well, that's the pros and cons. If you have more pros and cons about on versus off property at Walt Disney World specifically, because at Disneyland it's a totally different thing.
Yeah, I mean,
there are no pros to on.
I mean, like, it's just not the same.
It's not the same. I mean, obviously we want to stay in the Disney resorts out there, but honestly,
it's not.
It's not the same.
It's different.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
But leave us a comment down below, and until next time, TTFN.
Ta-ta for now.